Ah, well, hello. Whew. Okay, making this video for the grandkids and great-grandkids and maybe great-great-grandkids whenever they come around. But I'm 70 years old, and I figure I'd pass on a little wisdom. And the biggest thing is you go through life, you figure it out. The main important thing is be happy. If you're not happy, what the hell use is it? So I am happy, and one of the reasons I'm happy, one of the things that helped me be happy is smiling. Now, even when you don't feel like smiling, when you're miserable and you're in pain and all that stuff, smiling, just moving the facial muscles into a smile, makes your brain give off endorphins and other chemicals and shit. It's like your own little drug factory. Comes with the body, pre-installed, God's gift, okay? Smiling gives you the endorphins to feel better. It's like your own little drug stash. Totally legal, completely free, healthy, non-addicting, and you don't have to mess with any of the other crap out there. I mean, half the time the stuff the drug dealers give you is no damn good. I mean, I don't use drugs anymore, but I used to way back. Smoked a little pot. But the thing is all those drugs do is trigger the endorphins in your head. You don't need the drugs. You don't need to pay the dealers. You don't need to pay the damn doctors and the pharmaceutical companies. You got your own inward drug stash. And like I said, it's really totally, perfectly safe, legal, and free. So, smiling, that's one of the things that will help you feel better. If you feel better, you got a better chance of feeling good. And feeling good is what life's all about. I mean, you want to be miserable all your life? Yay, you can do that. Life will help you out. Society and the world, everything will help you out to be miserable. I don't choose to be miserable. I want to be happy. So, I'm happy. One of the things that makes me happy is smiling. It helps me to feel better. There's other things that I'll get into later on in other broadcasts and stuff, whatever. But mainly this is for my kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and whoever comes behind. So, me, I was born December 31st, 1950. My mother was in the hospital. She was sitting there, or laying there on the gurney in the operating room. She'd had a thing to make her not feel the pain of birth. And she was watching the clock because her and her sisters and her mother and the other people in the family, they really wanted the first baby born in 1951. New Year's baby. First baby born in Maine, 1951. So my mother was watching the clock. Well, unfortunately, my father had other ideas, such as he got more tax returns, more of money out of a deduction if I was born in 1950. So my mother swears that I was born 8 minutes after midnight, January 1st, 1951. My father conspired with a doctor and had it put back to 8 minutes before midnight, 1950. So I was born with a lie hung on me, and an argument between my mother and father, and I got named after the doctor. See, there wasn't much my mother could do back then because women didn't have much power. Man is head of the family, and men were in charge of everything, and they got what the hell they wanted. But the thing is my mother was a good person. My father, not so good as far as I'm concerned. I found out later the reason why he wasn't so good, to me was because he thought I was a bastard. He was over in France. He was stationed in France. He'd come home for my grandfather's funeral, his father's funeral, and that's when my mother got pregnant. Then he went back to France, and he came back for the birth. Anyway, he was cheating on my mother when he was over in France. I know this because I've read his journal. I've seen the pictures of his girlfriends. And like most people, he justified his cheating because, hey, everybody did it. And back then, popular culture with the movie stars and all the rest of the crap, yeah, everybody was doing it. But most people weren't with it, you know. That's the excuse by people who commit crimes. Hey, everybody's doing it, so what's the big deal? But he never told my mother because my mother was a beautiful woman. My mother probably would have divorced him, and he didn't want that because that would have hurt his reputation and he would have lost my mother. But he treated me like crap because he thought I was a bastard. And I know this because he confessed on his deathbed in 1969, January 13th, 1969, when he was dying. He told my mother, he asked my mother flat out, did you cheat on me? You know? He was in the VA hospital in Vermont and dying from a piece of shrapnel from Pearl Harbor. He was at Pearl Harbor, Schofield Barracks. The attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, a piece of shrapnel, he got hit in the back by bomb fragments, and a piece of shrapnel was left in there, and it worked its way in and caused an abscess on his aorta. And while they were getting busy trying to operate, it burst. He bled to death. Which is kind of funny because I have an aneurysm on my aorta, not caused by shrapnel. Don't know why the hell I got it, but they're going to have to operate pretty soon on it because it's big enough now, so you probably have to put a stent in it or something. But anyhow, I started out with a miserable childhood because my father thought I was a bastard. Also, after Vietnam and all that stuff, I had a miserable life. It wasn't my fault. Usually it's not the person's fault. The thing is circumstances, society, conditions around you, it can screw you up so easily. And that's what happened to me. I never got wealthy, never had a happy life. But I can be happy even though I have never had a happy life. Anybody can be happy by simply focusing on something they want to believe. And you got to figure out what you want to believe. You can't be told what to believe. I mean, the politicians, the religious leaders, the society leaders, they don't know. Or if they do know, what makes them happy is not necessarily going to be what makes you happy. But I figure I can be happy by being concerned about myself without hurting anybody else. There's no reason to hurt anybody else or take anything from anybody else in order to be happy. I can get by with whatever I got. And I worked hard when I worked, but because of the post-traumatic stress disorder and losing a foot, I couldn't work that much. I did work my way up to being middle class and owning a house and all that sort of stuff. And then when Reagan came into office and cut all the taxes and regulations and the inflation went through the roof, I lost the house I was trying to buy and everything crashed. Then I lost my wife. Then I lost my kids. So it wasn't my fault. It was a lousy economy and the Republicans and Reagan denying me any help from the VA. Couldn't get the help I needed. Human Services wanted my kids because they were worth $10,000 apiece to the adoption agency that was run by retired Human Services workers. They relied on Human Services child enforcement arm to supply the kids for them to adopt out, so my kids got taken away. They didn't stay away long. They came back as soon as they were old enough. But the thing is my life crashed through circumstances that weren't my fault. But it made me miserable. And then I decided, why the hell should I be miserable? It isn't my fault. There's no reason anybody should be miserable when most of the stuff is not their fault. So being happy is just believing in yourself, doing as good as you can, being satisfied with what you got, because the outside stuff's not important. It's what you think inside. That's important for your happiness. And what else do you want $1 million for? To be happy. What else do you want a new car for? Be happy. What else do you want? All this crap that they keep feeding us that we should want, except to be happy. Well, if you can be happy without it, then you don't have to put up with the bullshit. You don't have to pay the money. You don't have to bust your ass working or committing crimes. Whatever. You don't have to do all that stuff. You can be happy without it. So pick a philosophy, pick a belief, and it's not easy. You got to do a little research. You got to look at things. And you're not going to be happy with something that somebody else tells you. You got to figure it out on your own. Otherwise, you're not going to believe it. You're not going to stick with it. So I took a lot of years figuring out. That's why I'm telling you guys this. Because, hey, why should you spend years and decades trying to figure something out? I mean, it took me decades just to figure out what the hell I wanted to figure out. I didn't know there was a problem for the first 35 years, 40 years of my life. But if I can give you a shortcut, then I'm going to try. Whether you pay attention, whether anybody watches this or not, I don't really care, because I'm just going to try. So it makes me happy to try. And I like being happy. And we'll get into more of that later on, you know, if I do more telecasts, whatever the hell they are. Right now I wanted to do this because I got this beard, which is like, been growing it for 2.5 years. It's down to my belly button. But it's coming on summer and it itches. And it's also a pain in the ass, and it keeps getting hooked on things and shedding. So I'm going to trim it back, maybe braid it in the front, whatever. Save it for a little bit longer, but I'm going to get it out of the way so it's not bugging the hell out of me. It makes a hell of a good bib. But then I have to keep washing it because all the crap that gets in it. But like I said, this is mainly about teaching life lessons I've learned in 70 years. Some things I haven't learned yet, but that's okay. What I have learned, I'll pass along, because I wish the hell somebody told me about it in a way that I could believe 60 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever. So I'm putting this out there. Anybody can watch it. Probably nobody will watch it, but hey, I don't care, because I'm happy. Bye.